I never expected it. I kept replaying that moment over and over in my head, trying to make sense of it, but the words, the way they left his mouth, they never stopped hurting. "Emily, I think we need to talk," Ethan had said, his voice cold, distant. I had just gotten home from work, expecting dinner and the warmth of home. Instead, I was hit with his lifeless stare. "About what?" I asked, trying to keep the nerves out of my voice. "About us," he said, avoiding my eyes like they were too much to handle. My heart dropped. I could feel the tension thick in the air, but I refused to believe it. "Ethan, what are you talking about?" I tried to joke, but it felt hollow. His face tightened. He exhaled, a sigh that sounded more like relief than frustration. "I don't love you anymore." I froze. The world seemed to stop, like time had just hit pause. "You what?" I whispered, my voice trembling. He looked up then, his gaze cold and unwavering. "I've fallen out of love with you. And I don't think it's fair to keep going like this. You're holding me back." I was speechless. I wanted to scream, to beg him to stay, but the words wouldn't come. I could only watch as he stood up and turned his back on me. "Ethan, please," I whispered, feeling like my whole body was sinking. "I'm sorry, Emily, but I'm done." And with that, my world collapsed. It wasn't just the words that shattered me, it was the finality in his eyes. Like I was nothing. The days dragged on, each one worse than the last. I stayed in my apartment, alone, wallowing in the suffocating silence. Every corner felt like a reminder of what I had lost. I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror without feeling like a failure. Who was I really if Ethan didn't want me? What did that say about me? I sat on the couch, hugging my knees to my chest, wondering if I would ever feel whole again. My phone buzzed with messages from friends, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. "You'll be okay," they said. "Move on." But how could I? He was the person I trusted the most, and now he was gone. And worse, he had replaced me. I couldn't even bear to go out. I avoided the places we used to visit together, afraid I might run into him. I didn't want to see the pity in their eyes, "I'm sorry, but he's moved on" looks they would give me. It felt like everything in my life was crumbling, and no one could understand how badly it hurt. I finally called Sarah, my best friend. She was the one person I knew wouldn't judge me. She said softly when she answered, "I've been worried about you. I don't know what to do anymore," I muttered, feeling the tears rising again. She sighed. "You'll get through this, I know you will. You're stronger than you think." But it didn't feel that way. I felt weak, as if everything about me had been taken away with him. That night, the doorbell rang. My heart skipped a beat. I opened it to find Ethan standing there, looking guilty. "I made a huge mistake, Emily. I want you back." I didn't even let him finish. I slammed the door in his face. How dare he come here after everything he'd done? It was a week later, and I couldn't shake the image of Ethan's face from my mind. His words echoed in my head, a constant reminder of the betrayal. "I want you back," he'd said, as if he could just walk in and undo everything. I still felt the sting of that apology, but something had shifted in me. I had spent too many nights crying, asking myself why I wasn't enough. Why wasn't I the one who mattered? I had been waiting for him to come back, to say those words that would make it all feel like a bad dream. But now I knew, those words would never come from him in a way that made me whole again. It wasn't love I needed from him anymore, it was closure. I stared at the phone, my finger hovering over his number. The temptation to call him back was overwhelming, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't let him have that power over me anymore. I had already given him so much, and what did I get in return? A broken heart. "I'm done," I whispered to myself. The decision wasn't easy, but it was final. I couldn't keep going back and forth, hoping for something that was never going to happen. I had to move on. I had to stop pretending like he was the only one who could complete me. I picked up my phone again, but this time I deleted his number. I couldn't afford to keep looking back, not if I ever wanted to feel whole again. The world was wide open, and I wasn't going to spend another minute waiting for him. "I'm done," I said again, this time with a little more conviction. I was done. But it didn't feel like relief, not at first. It was more like a quiet fire had been lit inside me. Ethan had taken everything from me, my trust, my love, and my sense of worth. But now it was my turn. I wasn't going to let him walk away without realizing what he had lost. No, I was going to show him exactly what he'd given up. It started small at first. I threw myself into work. Found solace in the art of photography, something I'd always wanted to do but never had the time for. I signed up for a class, bought a camera, and started capturing the world around me. It was my therapy, my escape. And the more I captured, the more I realized something. I was good at it. Really good. I started posting my pictures online just for fun. But when people started to notice, when the likes and comments poured in, it felt like a rush of validation I didn't know I needed. People appreciated my work and suddenly I felt like I had a purpose again. One evening as I was out photographing a sunset, I got a call. It was from Sarah. "You won't believe this," she said, her voice full of excitement. "I saw your photos on a local gallery's website. They're looking for new artists to showcase." I could barely believe it. "Are you serious?" "Totally. You should go for it. This could be your big break." I felt my heart race. The idea of my art being displayed, of people seeing me as someone successful, was everything I had dreamed of. It wasn't just about the gallery, it was about proving to myself and to Ethan that I was worth something. And so, I applied. Within a week, I had my first exhibition booked. It was happening. I was starting to build a life without him, one that had nothing to do with his mistakes and everything to do with my strength. And Ethan? He had no idea what was coming. It wasn't long before Ethan started reaching out again. At first, it was subtle. A text here, a message on social media there. But it didn't take long for his desperation to become obvious. "Emily," his first message said, "I've been thinking a lot about us. I really messed up. I know that now." I stared at the screen, the words feeling so familiar, yet so empty. Did he think this would work? Did he think that after everything I would just fall back into his arms like nothing had happened? But still, I couldn't ignore the knot in my stomach. The part of me that had once loved him still wanted to respond, to reach out, to tell him everything I had been hiding inside. But I couldn't. Not anymore. Not after what he had done. The text kept coming. "I miss you," one said. "I made the biggest mistake of my life. I want you back. Please, Emily." The guilt in his words, was it real? Or was he just trying to make himself feel better for everything he'd ruined? I didn't know. All I knew was that the more he begged, the more I felt my resolve harden. He had taken everything from me and now he was trying to take my peace. I didn't reply. Not for days. But then something shifted. I found out that Ethan had broken up with the woman he'd left me for. The one who had apparently been the one, while I was still his wife. It wasn't long before Sarah told me that Ethan had been looking for me. He had even tried to get into the gallery where I had my first show. A small part of me felt a flicker of something, vindication maybe, but mostly, it felt like the universe was finally giving me the closure I needed. Karma had a way of making things right when you least expected it. And Ethan? He was now the one suffering. But I couldn't feel sorry for him. Not anymore. That I was sitting at my kitchen table, sipping coffee and staring out the window when my phone buzzed. I had grown so used to ignoring Ethan's messages that the sound didn't even register at first. But when I glanced down, I froze. It was him again. "I need to see you. Please. I'm sorry for everything." The words hit me harder than I expected. I had built up this wall around myself, one brick at a time, and now here he was knocking at the door of my past. I thought I was stronger than this. I thought I had moved on, but part of me, a stupid part, still wanted to hear him say something that would make everything right again. I took a deep breath, trying to push the urge to respond away. But what did he want now? What could he possibly say that would fix anything? I had to face it. I was angry. So angry. The way he had treated me, the way he had thrown me away so easily for someone else, it had all been a lie. Every promise, every word, every moment we had shared, it was a sham. And I was done believing in his apologies. I grabbed my phone and typed, not thinking, just reacting. "I'm not interested, Ethan. It's over. I'm over you." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. And as the message sent, something shifted inside me. A sense of finality. I wasn't waiting anymore. I wasn't hoping for a change. I put my phone down and exhaled slowly. It wasn't relief exactly, but something close to it. It wasn't about revenge or even about him. It was about me. I had let go. For the first time in months, I wasn't looking back. I stood up, walking toward the window again. The world outside felt different now. Bigger. I had space to breathe, to rebuild my life, and I didn't need him to complete it anymore. And for the first time since he'd left, I felt free. Weeks passed and I threw myself into my work with more intensity than ever. The gallery exhibit had been a success, and it felt like a wave of something new was washing over me. It wasn't just about proving something to Ethan anymore. It was about proving something to myself, that I could stand tall without needing anyone's validation. Not his. Not anyone's. But life, as it often does, has a way of balancing the scales. Ethan's world started to crumble, and though part of me wanted to feel vindicated, I couldn't shake the hollow feeling that lingered in the pit of my stomach. He had made his choices and I had made mine. His downfall wasn't for me to celebrate. Sarah was the first to tell me. You won't believe this, Emily, but I just heard that Ethan's job is on the line. They're cutting positions and it looks like he's one of the first to go. My heart skipped a beat, but not in the way I thought it would. I didn't feel glee or satisfaction. I just felt something else. Sadness maybe. Or maybe just pity. He had never been good at handling pressure, and I knew he had always relied on me to be the steady one. Now that he was on his own, things were crumbling. He's not the person you thought he was, Sarah said gently when she saw my expression. He had everything and he lost it. I knew that, but hearing it made it feel more real. This wasn't some grand cosmic revenge. It was just life. Karma had a funny way of catching up to people, even when they thought they had escaped it. A week later, I ran into him at a cafe. I had been sitting with a friend talking about my new photo shoot when I saw him across the room. His face, once confident, now looked worn. There were bags under his eyes, and the usual arrogant smile was gone. He looked human. He spotted me and walked over slowly, as if unsure whether I would even acknowledge him. I didn't know how to feel about seeing him again. A part of me wanted to turn away to act like he was a ghost. But another part of me, I don't know, maybe I wanted him to see what I had become. Emily, he said softly, his voice almost apologetic. I didn't expect you to be here. I glanced at him, then back at my friend. I didn't want to say anything that would open old wounds. Instead, I just nodded, a quiet acknowledgement that for once I wasn't angry. I was just indifferent. Well, I said, standing up, life goes on, doesn't it? And with that, I left. The night of my biggest exhibition arrived, and I felt a mix of excitement and nervous energy that I hadn't expected. The gallery was packed with people, artists, critics, and strangers who had come to see my work. The photographs I had poured my soul into were now hanging on the walls, admired and discussed. It was the validation I had been craving for so long. Not from Ethan, but from myself. As I walked through the crowd, I felt proud, like I was stepping into a new version of myself, one that didn't need anyone to define her. The people around me didn't know my story, they didn't know about Ethan or the mess we'd left behind. They only saw the art. And for the first time in months, I could breathe, knowing I wasn't being defined by my past. Then, just as I was speaking with a potential buyer, I saw him, Ethan, standing at the far end of the room, looking just as out of place as he had the last time I saw him. His eyes met mine, and for a split second the whole world seemed to stop. I didn't want to look at him, but I couldn't help it. He hadn't changed much, still dressed well, his posture still that of a man who thought he was entitled to everything he saw. But his face, it was different. There was something there now, a kind of quiet defeat. He wasn't the man I remembered, not anymore. Emily, he said when he finally walked over to me, his voice soft. I didn't expect to see you here tonight. I nodded, trying not to let his presence throw me off. It's a big night for me, I said, offering him a polite smile. I've worked hard for this. I can see that. He paused, his gaze flickering over my photos. They're incredible. You've really found your place, haven't you? I wanted to say something cutting, something to make him feel just a fraction of the hurt he caused. But instead, I found myself standing there, quiet. I didn't need to say anything. He already knew. He already knew what he had lost. I took a deep breath, meeting his eyes one last time. I'm happy, Ethan. And I'm not going back to what we had. He flinched but said nothing. His gaze dropped to the floor, and for a brief moment I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Goodbye, Ethan, I said, my voice steady. Take care of yourself. I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there, a ghost of the past. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I was finally free. And as I stepped out into the night, I knew that this was the last time I would ever look back. Months had passed since that night at the gallery. It was strange how quickly everything had changed. I had stopped thinking about Ethan every second of the day. I no longer wondered what he was doing, who he was with, or if he regretted his decisions. I had moved on, completely. It had been hard at first, but with every day that passed, I felt a little more whole. I had traveled more, spent time with friends, and even started dating again. It wasn't easy to open up to someone else, but I didn't feel the same fear or doubt I once had. I had learned to trust myself, and that was the most freeing thing of all. I didn't need someone else to fill the empty space inside me. I had finally realized that I was enough, all on my own. One Saturday afternoon, I was having lunch with Sarah when she brought up Ethan. You know, I ran into him last week, she said casually, taking a sip of her iced tea. He seemed different, quiet, like he's not the same guy anymore. I looked at her, surprised. What do you mean? She hesitated, then leaned in. He asked about you. Not in a way that was like, I want you back. More like, I think he finally gets it. What he lost. I tried to keep my expression neutral. Good for him. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Are you sure you're okay with that? I know you've moved on, but it's clear he hasn't. He's not the same, Em. I thought about it for a second. Did it bother me that he was still thinking about me? Honestly, no. I'm fine, I said, feeling a quiet peace in my words. It doesn't matter anymore. The truth was, I had finally let go. Ethan's regrets, his attempts to fix things, they didn't matter. What mattered was that I had healed. I had become someone I was proud of, and no one, not even him, could take that away from me. I smiled, taking a deep breath. I'm happy, Sarah. That's all that matters. And for the first time, I truly meant it.